Hello, Taylor. How are you today?
Hi, Jessica. Doing great. I'm so happy to chat.
I know. Thank you for taking the time to connect today. It's been a wonderful journey on the CFP path, and I love hearing other people's stories because, as much as I say it was lovely, there are ups and downs. Everybody kind of experiences it a little bit different. So I can't wait to hear your story. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, well, I am based in Greenville, South Carolina, and I work as a financial planner at a firm called Blue Trust, which I've been with for the last 3 years. So I joined them after I graduated in May and honestly instantly jumped into the CFP process. So I started my job and started CFP at the same time. So the learning curve was so enormous. I would get home, honestly, a lot of days and be absolutely comatose, like could do nothing. Genuinely, my brain was so dead. Um, I did not, I did have a finance degree, but it did not have financial planning concentration specifically. So when I started the CFP process, I actually had to go back and go through all the courses.
Mhm.
So I pushed those really hard. I finished in May, I believe, 8 weeks before the July exam. I
May of
just,
2024, you're saying,
May of
or May of
23, actually. Yeah.
2023.
Yep.
Okay.
May of 23, because I started in like August of 22. So
Okay.
I finished all my coursework and the capstone in May, and I had just, I think by the day, made the requirement to sit for the July exam. And
Oh
so,
my gosh.
yeah, so being the overly ambitious person that I feel like so many of us in this CFP
Yes.
journey are, I was like, well, sure, I'll sit for July. Like, I'll just run through
Can't be
this.
that complicated. I do it in every other area. I push through. It always works. Like I can do this.
I know I was working so hard. I mean, that method had always worked fine in school, like somewhat not cramming, but kind of, you know. So, yeah, I did the 16-week Dalton course in
Okay.
8 weeks,
You did it
and
in half the time?
I did it in half the time, but I did not get to everything. Like it was so bad. I
It's like
remember,
get through it, get through it, get through it.
yep. I remember the day before I sat for the July exam, studying the difference between SEPs and symbols. Like,
The day before, like 24 hours before the exam.
yes, 24
Oh,
hours before. And I knew better.
okay.
I knew that day I was like, this is probably not going to go well. Like, if this goes well, it will be a mercy from the
A
Lord, and
miracle.
because I'm prepared, actually, because this is bad. So I sat for it, did not pass. And even though it was, oh man, it was so interesting because even though I had kind of known that I did not deserve to pass at that time based on like the knowledge that I had,
Mhm.
it was crushing. It
Oh,
was,
like stab in the gut.
yeah, because it's not like I hadn't worked hard. I mean,
Right.
it just hadn't been enough, hadn't given myself enough time to build that foundation. But I was shattered. I was worried about like my path forward because I had just entered the workplace. I mean, I had just come from school. I was like, do I need to reconsider my entire life? Is this a sign? Like, do I need to move on? And so it was just very much like taking those few months to feel the feelings, to seek the Lord, to just figure out how I should continue and if that should be CFP. So around, I finally felt a lot better. Oh, also health. Health was such an issue during that time because I had stressed my body out terribly. So yes, so around March, I actually started studying again, slowly got back into it, and
Okay.
then eventually, like through a series of events that really I can only describe as the Lord's sovereignty, he led me to Paul. And Paul was just such a gift and a blessing. And my time with him truly was the game changer for me in terms of
Okay.
how to study. I had to relearn like how to study everything that I had done before.
Right.
So
Throw it
trying to,
up in the air and you have to come up with a new game plan. And I'm sure
yeah.
for somebody like type A, very like hardworking, whatever you do or whatever you set your goal to, if you push, you'll get there. And it's like rewiring your brain of there is not one direct path and I
Mhm.
might need to do it a little different, which it sounds like that's what you had to do. And that was for
Yeah.
me, that was extremely hard. I took it 3 times and passed on the third, but this second time, it's like I tried to do it a little bit different, but I couldn't get my head out of, well, I need to do it exactly this way and it will work. But
Mhm.
as you said, if you're so used to doing it by the rule book, you expect for the results to come by doing it by the rule book. And some people that works for, and other people it doesn't. And it sounds like based on what you're saying, you graduated, you crammed 16 weeks into an 8 week period. So it's like go. And your body, I don't know if you've read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, but
Yes.
it
Yep.
once you take the exam, whether you pass or you fail, I feel like there's a letdown of
Mhm.
if you pass, you still sometimes get sick afterwards because you've been going. And if you fail, it's like the mental part, the physical part, the emotional part. It's just like it's very hard to process it.
It is. It is It's interesting how much the exam does affect every area of your life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've chatted with people about that before. I think it's so underestimated how it's not just, I mean, for me, it didn't just feel like school. I think just the weight of it in terms of career and even just how hard it was, because, there could be more than one correct answer and you have to choose the best answer.
Yes.
And sometimes the answers you're picking aren't something you would necessarily normally recommend in real life. It's just the answer that doesn't violate any of the rules
Hmm.
mentioned in the question. So it's just such a different ball game and it is very mentally difficult. You have to really develop a lot of perseverance. At least for me, I had to develop so much perseverance and just
Yes.
like trusting the process and trusting the Lord and continuing to take a step.
You're absolutely right. Now tell me from your original, you said you was Dalton, you did the 16 weeks in 8 weeks. What
Mhm.
did you do different? Like, I'm sure we have some similarities. And like, I worked with Paul as well as a tutor, and it was fantastic. I will say poor Paul has seen tears of mine. He has seen me, heard me swear. I mean, he saw the best and the worst of me, sometimes the worst. But it was so uncomfortable for me when I started because it was so different than anything I'd ever done in terms of, you know, types of tutoring. I'd done tutoring over the years, but it was just coming from a different view. And somebody had told me, you're going to learn to go like 5 layers deep. And I was like,
Mhm.
what the heck does that mean? And I know for me, the first few times, it's like memorize, 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 memorize. But on the exam, it's not an estate question is an estate question, or a tax question is a tax question. The question has like 5 topics sometimes embedded in it. So you truly have to understand the topics and not say, okay, here's a tax question. No, this is a
Yeah.
situation. And how do I break this down? And like, how do I zoom out and kind of see it differently? So what did you do different
So
your second
interconnected.
time, like on that
Yeah.
study path?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once I decided that I was going to go for it again, I just wanted to try anything and everything I could because I was like, if I do not pass this time, we're done. Like this exam has just been so hard for me, and I can't even tell you how much I admire you for pushing through it a third time. That just blows my mind because I knew I was like, if I fail the second time, I'm out. Like I can't keep just banging my head into this brick wall. But I started off very slowly, and I went back through all the Dalton books that I already had because I had their guaranteed to pass program.
Yep. So you could get
But
the books again and work
hmm.
through it.
Yep.
Yep.
So still had the book, still had access to the questions in the course, which was really nice. So I started going back through those really slowly. The questions for me on Dalton had been a little traumatizing.
Okay.
So I decided not to do those early on just because I was trying to just get my body back into a place of like, this is okay.
Yeah.
Learning is good. Learning is enjoyable versus, oh,
Torture.
these questions. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
these questions just beat me to a pulp. So went back through those to start with, gave myself like plenty of grace. I took weekends off at first, which was very helpful for me. And then eventually I was like, I've read through these books about 2 times. I still don't feel like I have a great understanding of it because when I get to the questions, I'm just like, oh, like what's going on?
The different, it is like pulling it all together and then applying. Like it's a very different, I don't know, for you, when I first spoke to Paul and he said, okay, so you're going to study, you're going to take one day off a week. I'm like, okay, nobody does that, right? Or my day off was when I was tutoring with him because I'm like, well, I'm not studying, I'm just doing tutoring. And it wasn't until, I don't know, a little bit through it where I was like, okay, I'm 100% taking a day off. Like blocked it. I would start Saturday at, 2 o'clock and I would not come back till Monday. It was a game changer because it would
Yes.
recharge me where I don't want to say I was excited to study on Monday, but I was ready. The gas tank was full. And
Yes.
I wasn't thinking about it all day Sunday because before it was, I always felt guilty if I wasn't studying, I should be studying.
Hmm.
And it just gave the freedom to actually relax for a hot second, enjoy life. I've got 3 kids. They were all under the age of 9, very
Yeah.
active, and to feel okay and not feel guilty spending time with them.
Oh, yes.
Which
100%.
might
Like,
sound messed up, but it's just when your brain is constantly, oh my God, I gotta study, I gotta study, I gotta study. It's like you're trying to multitask so many things and you're never present in the moment for anything.
yes, 100%. And that recharge helps so much with stamina. Another thing I did actually just during the study process in general, I surprised myself. I, like you, had such a hard time turning my brain off and not being like, okay, like watch sales and just like
Mm-hmm.
whatever random topic that came to mind, I was just like, all right,
Yep.
let's do that right now. One thing that really helped me that I was so surprised by was audiobooks. I
Ooh,
would
okay.
listen to audiobooks on walks and it would help me turn my brain off to CFP because I was thinking about like a different story. Like I read so many classics that I just hadn't gotten before and it was just so good for my brain to be able to turn off that way and take that break. That was one of the few things I found that actually was able to just calm my brain down and get my mind off of it.
So I will say that is, I never thought of that one. That is a very good one. I feel like we all bring something different to the table. Like what we
Yes.
finally did to shut the brain off, because I feel like most people that take this exam are people that don't shut their brains off very often. For
Hmm.
me, it was meditation,
Hmm.
hot power yoga,
Hmm.
and painting. And I never felt I had the time to do those things because I should be studying. But it was actually by accident that I started hot power yoga. I had done yoga in the past a little bit, and I was like, this, I can't shut my brain off. This is horrible. I hate this. This is torture. It's not a real workout. And I was supposed to take the exam in November, so November of 2024.
Was this
And
the first or
that was the
second?
third attempt. It
Okay,
was the
that's
third attempt. And
okay.
so in July, at the end of July, I was trying to mentally, physically, emotionally get in good shape and
Yeah.
whatever. So I was working out literally at my home gym and flipped the weight bench on my head and got a concussion. And so I remember I was trying to finish my workout and then I was like, I probably shouldn't. I called Paul and I said, okay, so I might have hit my head a little bit, but I'll be totally fine. I just might be a little slower. And he's like, you need to take the time off or you're going to regret this.
Was this Paul you were talking to?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
He
Yep.
goes, don't push yourself. And that is the opposite of anything I've ever done in my life. So I push, push, push. And I said,
Yeah.
no, but I'm taking it in August and or in November. And we have, this is the game plan. And these are what we're supposed to get through. And he said, take the time you need and then we'll reevaluate. I shut off for 6 weeks and I had been studying for like, it was wild. And for the first time, maybe in my life, I was actually present in the moment. I couldn't work out, I couldn't study, and I wasn't working. So I was like, okay, well, I have no other choice right now. Let's be present. And so when about 6 weeks later, it was in August, I decided the end of August, I'm going to try yoga because maybe I won't hurt myself. Okay. And I signed up. It was like $49 for unlimited for a month. And I'm like, I'll just try it. If I do 2 classes, I'll be fine. Like, and then if I don't want to do it again, I don't. I went the first 3. I could not wait for the classes to be over. It was the most humbling experience of my life. And by the 4th class, I was hooked. Like at the 50-minute mark, when you start to wind down, I would be sad because it was one of the very few times where my brain would actually stop
Wow.
thinking because it was 95 degrees. You're trying, like you have to learn to breathe. You have to, all the things that I thought didn't really matter is one of the main things that got me through this exam. And
Yes.
meditating, like the Calm app, my best friend.
Mm.
Because I mean, there were courses I did in the last month where it was like, overcoming anxiety, stress, like self-confidence. It was like 5 or 10 minutes a day, truly just changed everything. Like you're more present in the moment. You recharge. And I think that's the part, like you said, where you take the time off, you're listening to the audiobooks, you're still living your life, but you are able to shut the worry and constant, like, I should be studying off so that when
Yes.
you do go and study, it's productive.
Yes, your brain is so much more fresh and ready to take in the new information because you've given it a break. So that's so cool to hear how we both found different ways to shut off our brains. I'm sure everyone's journey is a little bit different with that, but it's so important, I think, for people to find whatever that happens to be for them because it's essential to surviving and just being healthy on the other end too.
Mhm. Yeah.
I really want to hear more about your journey and like why you started CFP and your 3 tries and just all of those things.
So it's funny that you said you were going to stop after the second one because I 100%, that's what I wanted to do. But I had 3 kids that were watching me. The younger one was too young at the second attempt to have watched the process. And all I remember thinking is, okay, I need to, we've been working with our kids on like showing grit and resilience. And I'm thinking, holy crap, we've been nailing, like trying to implement that in them. What does it look like if I stop at this point? And it was a lot. And I think that was the emotional piece where it's like, yes, I'm doing it for my career. I'm doing it for me personally. But then by the end, it was, I'm doing this to show them like pushing through pays off. And I remember I had 10 questions left on the exam. And I went to the bathroom. I took a break. I literally sat on the toilet and I started doing deep breathing. I said, God, I've showed resilience and grit. I've done this to show my kids resilience and grit. Please show them that it's worth it and it pays off because I don't know if I can go through this again, but I also can't stop because I have to show them that you keep going until and thank God he listened to me and helped
Oh,
me through it. But it's like what drives you may change throughout the process. But
hmm.
if you don't have that why,
Yeah.
you're not just doing it because you need the letters or whatever, but there has to be something more than just the letters that gets you through it.
Hmm.
And you were right out of school, so your brain at least was like in study mode. I was a career changer. I graduated college in 2008. I studied finance and accounting. My favorite class in college was financial planning. It was an elective. There was one elective, that was it.
Yes.
I was like, I love this, but everybody pushed you Big Four accounting firm. So graduated college, got my CPA, and did that for a few years. Then went into sales with Mary Kay Cosmetics for 14 years,
That's
which
amazing.
I
That's such a
loved.
switch.
I absolutely loved, earned free cars, like loved
Yes.
working with people. But it wasn't until 2019 when
Hmm.
my third son was born. He was in the NICU for 61 days. He came home with a feeding tube. COVID hit in March. And then I ended up having to have open heart surgery in that November. And it was the night before my surgery. And I remember thinking, if God forbid I didn't make it through surgery, did I do everything I wanted to do? And that's when I was like, sounds horrible, sounds dramatic, but that's literally what went through my head. And I said, okay, I'm going to get through the surgery. And what will I do different on the other side? And I'd watched so many people in my life struggle, whether it was divorce or death or just financially, like, how can I help people? And it was very similar to Mary Kay in the sense of empowerment, education, like wanting to make a difference in people's lives. So I promised myself I would sign up for the CFP course at Boston University. Surgery was November 18th. I signed up for the program on Christmas of or sorry, December 26th, like a month later. And I paid for the whole thing in advance because I'm like, if I don't pay for the 18-month program and it expired after 18 months, then I'm never getting through this. I had not studied like that in 15 years. So it was like getting the cobwebs out of my brain of how do I do this? And so I think like the first attempt, not how I should have done it. I didn't have as much experience in the industry at that point. I'd been in finance and accounting and all that, but that was prior. And my brain just needed to recalibrate, I think. And then I took the second, so that was, when was that? That was November of like 3 years ago-ish, 4 years ago. And then I turned around and took it in March the next time.
Okay, that's
So I'm like, I took a month off where I was like, I can't look at anything. I need to try to get myself back together. Felt like I was back together. But I think one of the things that Paul has said to me is it's not about, because again, I was trying to go back on the third attempt. What do I need to do? Tell me exactly what to do so I can pass. And he said, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality.
yes.
So
Yep.
probably similar to yourself. It's like, if I just do more, but that's not what it was about. And so being able to work with him, learn the areas that I actually had to go deeper in and then understand it and not just, I don't know, read for 3 hours a day. It was, these are the couple of things I'm going to cover today. That was the win.
Yes. Paul came in and just like broke apart what I thought studying was truly. I mean, what you said about quality over quantity,
Yes.
huge,
Yep.
huge. Because every review course I had done had been like, oh, do this many hours in
Yep.
retirement, do this many hours in tax. Total,
Yep.
you should have this many hours before you sit for the exam. That'll give you a great chance to start. But I mean, truly, correlation does not equal causation. Because I know on
No,
the CFP, they always ask, like, how many hours did you study for this? But that's not always the
it
best
doesn't mean
indication, truly. So Paul just kind of took a sledgehammer to that one.
shattered everything you thought
Yeah.
was how you're supposed to do.
Yeah, he was like, "Are you just reading the book?" No, we're not going to just read the book. So it was really so refining to figure out, okay, well, how do I study differently? And how do I
Yep.
approach quizzes now? Because it wasn't just doing a quiz and being like, oh, yeah, I got a 75. It was like, no, go back through the quiz. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
if you got the question right or wrong. You look like, did I get it right for the right reasons? And if I got it wrong, was it a misread
Right.
or was it a knowledge issue? If it's a knowledge issue, learn the knowledge. If it's a misread, read more carefully and do 5 push-ups because that was my penalty.
Oh my God. That's crazy, the misread. So I would get so mad if I didn't do well on a test. Like it would, my husband would know my mood dictated how I did on quizzes. Like he'd come back from skiing with the boys on a Saturday, and if I did good on the exam, I was like, yeah. And if I did not do good, it was, I think everybody in the house was walking on eggshells. And I mean, Paul got some text from me, and I was like, we're not going to explain what the text were, but I was really upset. He's like, you need to go through and you need to categorize, like, was
Yeah.
it a knowledge thing? Was it a misread, or was it I forgot what the other one was. Mine were usually misreads, like to the point where I use my finger to read the question, and I still would read like not, like was versus wasn't the way I wanted it in my head. So it was like as slow as humanly possible, read the question, and trusting instinct. I think that was the other thing he really hammered home to me, because you couldn't just say what the answer was and why it was the answer. You had to tell why the answers were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, I would change my answer so many times. And then I would have had it right the first time, and then I would have got it wrong. It's like, why'd you change it? I'm like, well, and by the end, I would fight for my answer, even if I was 100% wrong, until like I would not change it. Sometimes I wanted to change it. I'm like, don't be, just stick with it, stick with it. It's better. And during the exam, I don't know about you, I heard him in my head, like
Oh, yes.
asking me questions of like, well, why did you pick this one? Why is it not that? And thank God I didn't start talking out loud as if he were on the screen, but I was afraid of that a few times. But everybody's got different. It's different. And you said how many hours you study. They ask you that at the end. But the reality is, somebody that goes to the gym is not getting the same workout plan as somebody that has been working out for a decade. Somebody that has, a torn ACL is going to work out different than somebody that is like, I don't know, a professional athlete. Everybody's different, and it is okay to have your own path. And I think we get so locked into this program says to do it this way, this one this way, which works for a large percentage of people the first time. I just shouldn't say large. There's more people that fail than people know, because nobody really talks about that. And
Yes.
if you don't pass the first time, which most people don't, then you need to look at it from a different, like,
Mhm.
different view
Yeah,
and do
different
something
perspective.
different.
Study differently, find a different review course, just something like something needs to change. I ended up doing, I just tried so much because Dalton hadn't worked for me. Although granted, I don't know that I gave it the full shot that I should have with that 8 weeks for a 16-week review course. Whoops. But I tried Zahn. I actually liked going through Zahn a lot. It condensed the material from Dalton
Yeah.
over half, and that was so helpful for me in just laying a foundation. And then obviously Paul was the biggest game changer for me
Yes.
and my study habits. And I did Paul's stuff. And I feel like with CFP, you have to trust somebody's process. Like you have to be
Yes.
all in on something. For
Yes.
me, I had seen the biggest impact and the biggest difference in my time with Paul. So that was what I was like, okay, I'm going to trust his process, going to trust what
Yeah.
he says, but I'm doing Zon alongside so that I'm
Yes.
supplementing my learning that way.
Yeah.
So
And
that
I
was,
did Danko. So like I did Danko the
yeah.
first and second time, and then I still went through it the third time. Like I love the program, but for
Yep.
me too, questions was a big thing. Like I never. It makes me upset that some of the courses don't do more questions because
Yes.
I have always had test taking anxiety. Like I'm not. It's never
So,
been a strength area of mine. And when Paul said in the beginning, well, we're going to get through the material, and then in the last month you're going to do 100 questions a day, I'm thinking, is he out of his mind? Like, there's no way I'm getting through 100 questions a day. I don't have that many questions. There, like everything was going off in my brain of this is not possible. That changed everything. And I said, Paul, we need questions. And so he was brilliant and came up like he has a Q bank. So I think I'm not quite sure on this, so don't quote me, but whether you're working with him tutoring or you do the Q bank, like it saved me. By the time I got to, it was like exposure therapy. That's the best way I can describe it.
yes.
By the time I got to the exam, it's 100 in, what is it, 140? Wait,
170?
170, yes, 170, sorry, 170 questions. So it was really less than 2 days of Paul questions. And if you're doing it, 25, 30 times, it's just, okay, I'm just doing another set of questions.
Yes.
So it wasn't terrifying of how am I going to get through this many questions in a day?
Yeah, it really builds up your endurance level. Both, I think, physically, because you are having to just like
Yes.
physically get through that many questions, but
Yep.
also mentally, emotionally,
Yeah.
all of those things really had to be strengthened a lot. For me, that's what happened those last 30 days. I
Yeah.
also, I don't know, sometimes I would get so frustrated with like, man, I didn't do as well on these questions, but sometimes the questions were harder. And so even that was a great emotional exercise of being like, Paul told me, he was like, you're your own worst enemy because you beat
Mm-hmm.
yourself up if you don't 100% perfectly know something. He's
Yes.
like, the most important question is the question right in front of you. Whatever that happens to be. So give that your all, read it carefully, make sure you know rationale of like why this is the best answer, why the others aren't the best answer. It's like select it and move on and put that behind you. On the next
Yes.
question, you're not still thinking about that previous question. And that was such a good skill, I think, for me to build up in those last 30 days because
Yes.
I would struggle with that. I mean, sometimes my brain would be like 10 questions back on like, oh, did I get that one right? Did I not?
Yeah.
So that was definitely also a learning curve that really, really helped a lot when I finally got to exam day because it
Yep.
was like, nope, we're done with that question. We did our
Move
best.
on.
We're
It's
going to
like
keep
new
moving
day,
on.
every question.
Yep. Yep. Just
And
keep moving
I
on.
was,
The
I
mental
remember I was trying to build
fortitude.
my stamina and doing like 25, 100 questions at a time. And if I got to the end of it and I grade it, look at it, I would be pissed if it wasn't a good like score. I'm like, it ruined my whole day. Whereas finally Paul said, do 10 questions at a time and then correct them. So it's
Mhm.
not necessarily about the score at the end. It is a take 10 at a time,
Mhm.
review them, and then you can start doing more if you want to. But for me, that helped tremendously. The wrong answer book, I don't know if you did this. No, okay. So one of the things with Brett Danko, I had worked with Amy Lisa at one time, is you have a wrong answer book. And so any question you get wrong, you put in a wrong answer book. And it's not you write the whole question and the answers, it's like the topic or it's like 1 or 2 sentences max. So it's like, and I did it the first 2 times, and you're supposed to, every day read it
Yeah.
a few pages a day. And the first 2 times I was like, oh, I'll get to it on Sundays. That'll be
Mhm.
my relaxed day. Like didn't really happen. And then it gets so long, you're like, I'll never get to it. One of my tasks each day was read 5 pages of the wrong answer book.
Oh, that's a
So
great.
in the beginning, I kept reading the same things over and over. So then I started to get those. And
Mhm.
then by the end, I spent literally, that's all I did is that and questions.
Wow. Okay. So is that what you did the last month? Those were the two things that you did?
No, I did it every day I was studying. So like from
Okay.
day one, any question I got wrong, I would look at it, write it down, and then, in the beginning it was a little less because you don't have as many things to look at, but it
Mhm.
was every week or every day towards the end, reading several pages a day.
Right.
Because then if you don't, what I realized is if I wasn't looking at it, I kept getting the same things wrong. I wasn't like, I
Mm.
wasn't learning it completely. And then there were topics where I was like, I get this now. And so when I read, I'm like, I know what it's asking me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I never did the wrong answer notebook
Okay.
because honestly, so Paul did mention it, but to
Okay.
me, it just sounded so overwhelming. I was like, I don't really want that to be an extra task in my day, but it's so neat too, just how, even though we're doing similar things, there's still like
Right.
different things that you can do or
Exactly.
not do. And ultimately, praise the Lord, the result was still the same and
Yes.
was able to pass. Um, I loved when I first started, Paul, again, huge on study routine, and he was very
Yes.
much like make a specific list of tasks that you're going to get done or that you're going to study every day.
Yes.
That did make a big difference. So I feel like instead of the wrong answer notebook, one of my tasks that I would put on my list was if there's a concept I don't understand, chart it on my whiteboard. So I literally got a whiteboard for
Okay.
this. And I don't know why, it just is so much more fun to me to like draw on a whiteboard than it is on paper. And so I would just write out concepts on paper or I would draw
Yep.
it out. I remember one of the things that I did was like Roth distributions and like the 5-year rule as it pertained to different areas. And
Okay.
I just wrote that all out and charted it all out. And then I just like, I left it in my house. And then in the morning, I would see it, kind of review it in my head. In the evenings, I would review it. So that would, be the case for however long until I decided to erase it and do something
You
else.
got it.
But yeah, but that was something for me that I had on my like my task list that
I
helped a
love
lot
that.
more than I expected. I loved my whiteboard.
No, but that's, and you're reading it, but it's also like it's ingrained in your gut. Like you've learned it enough that you truly understand it to the basics, and it's not I'm trying to memorize facts right now.
Yes, yes, exactly. And it just seeing, I loved how you said earlier, seeing like one question and it would be like, okay, this is not just a tax question. This
Correct.
is tax, estate, and retirement. So actually, I remember I got to a point later on in my journey, probably a month or two before the exam, where
Yep.
I told Paul when I was going through the Dalton Test Bank, I was like, so I see these questions and I always quantify them in my head. I'm like, okay, what area is this asking?
Correct.
And sometimes it really would be three, two
Yep.
or three areas. And so he was like, that's really good. I'm glad that your mind is going high level enough, like starting high level
High
enough.
level. You have to say high level.
Yes, like high level enough to be like, okay, like let's orient ourselves to this room. Like, what room are we standing in? Are we in retirement? Are we in tax? And what are they actually asking in this question? So those were such big things that helped me throughout the entire process and ultimately pass.
Oh, I love it. I love how we all have different pieces that we can add to it. What there's no, this
Yeah.
just shows there's no one perfect way to do it. Like it's
Mhm.
going to be different based on your studies, like how you receive things, how you process them. What do you now know about yourself that you did not know after your first attempt? Like after having completed this, what
Mm,
do you now know about yourself?
that is such a good question. Oh, I think one of the biggest things I learned, oh, so there's so many. Like this is such a hard question to answer. I might have to answer it in multi
That's okay. That's okay.
but I think one thing was that the Lord does give so much strength for whatever we're facing right then, and so much encouragement to get through it. Like there were so many times when I felt like stopping, when I felt completely discouraged, and it was at that time where there would be a new breakthrough, or a friend would call, or my grandparents like sent me a package, and
Oh,
or my I was having a panic attack, and my dad like just knew to call at that specific moment. Like things that could really only be attributed to the Lord. And it's just so beautiful to see how He just gave me that sustainment to get all the way through. And then I think secondarily, I learned how much I do tend to doubt my knowledge and doubt my abilities. Because when I came to Paul, I really felt so discouraged because I always thought, like, I always did fine in school. I thought I was like relatively smart. I mean, I didn't
yeah,
think I was stupid,
right.
but CFP just made me feel so stupid and so discouraged. And I remember those first few months of working with him, I still felt so like I felt just this internal pain and turmoil
Oh
about
yeah.
how much I didn't know. And he was like, "No, like this is the time to get things wrong. This is the
Yes.
time
Yep.
to not know."
Right.
And also, he was so reaffirming. He's like, "No, you also like yes, this is the time to get things wrong." But also he told me that I knew so much more than I thought I did.
Give yourself credit. It's very easy to be your own worst critic when you start, I feel like we start to doubt and we start to question everything, and then you feel stupid and you're like, well, I don't know anything. It's like the always, never, nothing, like
Mhm.
very black and white. Whereas it may be one piece, that doesn't mean you don't know anything, and have the confidence to fight for what you're thinking in your head, even if you're not 100% positive, because
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, you know more than you're giving yourself credit for.
Right. And so I think that that was just so huge in terms of boosting my confidence and just reminding me of like why I do want to be a planner, why I do want to help people in all the difficult situations of their life. And also towards the end for me, I really wanted to pass because I wanted to encourage other people that they can do it as well. Because truly it was such a journey and so overwhelming and so difficult. And so by the end, one of my motivations was like, no, I really want to partner with other people on their journeys and encourage them and help them and share anything and everything that I can, like open book resource, so that I can be an encouragement to other people who are going through it because it can be a very lonely and isolating journey, and it shouldn't be because
No, it
there's
should be. You feel totally alone, and I think that's the biggest thing.
yeah.
And I said the same thing to Paul, like towards the end. I'm like, when do I get to start helping people? And I was like, I gotta pass the exam first. But I was so at that point, like I had turned every rock. I did everything I possibly could. So I'm like, there's no way. I don't want to say there's no way I can't pass, but it was like I've done everything. I've done absolutely everything. How can I give back? Which for the first time and as the third temp, I was like, this is different. This is
Mm,
different than how it was before.
yes.
And I'm actually going to ask Paul if there's any. Are you open to sharing your contact information if people want to reach out at all to ask
Oh,
you any questions?
100%. Like I
I
would, yeah.
forgot to. I did one other of these videos and I was like, oh, we should have done that. But maybe Paul can put like our emails or something if anybody wants to
Yes.
reach out to ask any questions, because
Yes.
having somebody that has gone through it, has gone, if they failed, to be able to connect and not feel like you're alone. Because a lot of times on LinkedIn, Facebook, you only see the passing. Nobody's writing, I failed my exam. like you're hiding in the corner, curled up under the bed. You're like, what is happening? But to
Yeah.
have somebody that they can reach out to, I think is huge.
Yes, I would love that. Truly, that's been
Okay.
my favorite part of passing is being able to share that story in its entirety and
Yes.
just help and encourage. Like, I'll be your cheerleader. I'll pray for you. Like, whatever you need. Like, I
Yeah.
would love to do that.
Okay. Awesome. I will make sure that we put our contact information in so people can
For
reach out.
sure.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Like, it's just so nice to hear other people having gone on this journey as well, because when you're in it, you think you're, like you said, completely alone, solo, nobody gets it. But there
Mhm.
are so many people that have had similar situations. So thank you for taking the time today, Taylor, and I truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've loved doing this and I look forward to chatting in the future.
All right. Bye.
Bye.